Chapter 1. The sun felt hot and sticky as I laid underneath it in the tall grass. It kissed my forehead gently as I lavished in its love. My heart beat slowly and steadily as sounds reached me where I was hiding from the day. I could hear children laughing and splashing in the water. The laughter and screams faded in and out, but it did not avert me from my amorous sun-gazing. A gust of wind brought droplets of water to my face. I opened my lips to let the parched be clenched. It felt cool on my cheeks and my tongue. I hollowed out my lungs and sucked the breath back in with the smell of honeysuckle and sweet pollen filling my nostrils. Ah, bliss. May I stay forever in the sun? May I freeze time and stay forever? Cat! Cat! An urgent call pulled me out of my trance, and I sat up eye level to the tall prairie grass. My brother was running up to me, dripping wet and cold after a violent swim in the lake that only a boy of 12 could manage in a summer's day. Your bird! I see it over there! He pointed over to the woods, the small patch we trailed through to get to our secret lake. I squinted my eyes as I stood, hoping to catch a glimpse of the glorious blue bird that fascinated me as he stalked me periodically through my summer stays at my grandfather's lake home. I don't see him, Sean, I cried as I desperately searched for my feathery friend. There, Sean pointed frantically. Glancing up to the direction he pointed, I gasped. There before me was a man, tall and slender, piercing blue eyes, and long hair falling in one. Here, the man shouted. I lay there on the doctor's examination table, trying to shake myself from the dream I had the night prior. It felt all sad, and it made me miss a life I really did not think I ever loved. I worked hard through school to get away from that life. My mean brother, my crazy mother. After my grandfather was gone, there was no one left who loved me. Not truly. It bothered me to have such vivid dreams. It probably was just part of my overall illness, the one that I was certain I was dying from. I never realized how sick a person could be. Even after all the tests that could possibly show up anything and everything came back negative. I did not know at the time, but I was indeed very sick. This sickness consumed me, ate at my insides like a carnivorous beast who just discovered a fresh meal after a famine. It tore at my soul and knocked out my sight. I was blind to life. I just saw the real world. I lay on the table, breathing slowly as the doctor palpitated my stomach. There was tenderness there, but apparently no blood or urine tests showed any signs of ailment. CT scans showed a healthy 35-year-old female body. I felt as if I was 103 with no control of myself. Okay, that is a severe exaggeration, but my bones ached. My stomach churned with this incredible pulling sensation that seemed to be tearing my organs in half. Wasn't there a name for what I had? And was there not some magic pill that could be prescribed that could cure me instantly? I mean, seriously, I had deadlines and Christmas coming up. My life would not stop for the inconvenience of sickness. Ah, it's severe flatulence. The doctor discovered this eureka moment, and it appeared to be almost a spiritual awakening. Huh? I sat up, severely annoyed at this elder man who was so proud to finally have cracked the case. Gas, my dear. Have you thought of changing around your diet? His eyes peered over at me through half spectacles. I felt as if I was in a time warp and we had jumped back to the Old West. The older men doctors guessing at what may be ailing people, many dying around my age. Just great. But they did prescribe some hardcore drugs back then. Think I could score some coke? No. I eat an all-organic vegan diet. Lies. Well, it was sort of true. Before my friends would come over to my place, if we ever had a dinner party there, I would run out and completely stock my fridge with all organics from Whole Foods nonetheless. My pseudo-vegan life was a joke. Whenever I went out to dinner with friends, I ordered such over-the-top, healthy vegan choices that they were convinced I was a true vegan. It wasn't a lifestyle, it was a show style. On Facebook, I flooded the news feed with witty posts on why you should switch to a vegan diet. Then I would pass McDonald's on the way home from work for chicken nuggets and swing by my corner store for brie and soda. Wow, my diet was a mess. Do you get enough exercise? He was extremely puzzled by my condition. Oh, yes. I have a membership to a fitness center through work. Truth. One of the new healthy incentives that employers were trying to force upon their workers was a gym pass. It made the company look concerned about their employees' well-being without having to directly be involved. You can't blame the sedentary job for your obesity. We gave you a free pass to health and wellness. How often do you exercise a week? He asked. At least once a day. I get up early for workouts. Lie. I did get up early, but the only workout I got from getting up early was peeing out the soda I had binge drank the previous night before falling asleep in a random yet uncomfortable position in various states around my apartment. So, this is how you keep such a nice figure. Good eating and proper exercise. He smiled and sat down on a tiny stool to scribble some notes in my chart. Yep. Lie. I mastered the art of feltness from a clever trick I learned in high school. Binge, then purge. Sometimes do not eat at all. If you are just drinking liquids of any kind, you will keep your figure down better than eating any solids. I am so smart. A dieting genius, really. The doctor put his hands on his forehead and sighed deeply in concentration. Do you get enough sleep? He peeked up at me momentarily. Oh, absolutely. Lie. If I do not have access to sleeping aids in the form of prescription medication provided by a friend, I watch television, play on my phone, or meander on my laptop until I just crash. I averaged about 4 hours per night. Is your lifestyle hectic? Job stressful? He asked. Not really. Lie, lie, lie. I was among the single 30-something socialites of New York City. Every day was a different party. After work, I would venture out to another event or public display of over-the-topness. Sometimes dinner was involved, sometimes just alcohol. I deserved the party time as an ongoing celebration of my job promotion 3 years ago. I was an editor at a top publishing firm. It was hard and stressful. I had to be ruthless with the copy editors, from whence I had just been promoted from. Who cares if I had to sleep with the boss to get there? It was hard work seducing him. I so deserved it. Well, here's what I recommend for you for the next few weeks. I am writing you a prescription for your gastric issues. If you have not already, try yoga. I am guessing this is just a temporary upset to your system. Welcome to getting older, darling. He smiled as he tore off the prescription from the pad and handed it to me. I felt as if he was openly mocking me as I jerked it out of his hand and waited silently for him to leave the room so I could dress myself. Older my ass. I was still at the top of my game. Old was for married people, mothers, grandmothers. I was still young, energetic, and very desirable. I spent way too much money on looking so good. It worked for me. I wasn't old until I settled down. I was youth and vitality wrapped into one tiny, neat package. As soon as he quietly retreated from my toxic energy of anger from feeling insulted, I swiftly put my clothes back on. I would just have to get yet another second opinion. I had already had exactly 12 opinions so far. There had to be some real doctor out there who actually knew what he or she was doing and could diagnose me properly. I would now have to start expanding my search. This ordeal was becoming unbearable. I knew I had some rare disease they just could not think to find. Hopefully, I would not succumb to it before someone smart showed up. I straightened myself up and smoothed my long dark hair out. A trip to the bathroom to freshen up would be in order, but not in this stifling medical office. I whipped out my cell phone, my go-to device that allowed me no interaction with people lower than me, and searched for the number of my health insurance provider. They should have been used to me calling by now. I waited for 10 minutes in that tiny exam room until a representative picked up. As soon as I gave her all my identifying information and she asked how she could assist me, I opened the door and loudly proclaimed my distaste with the latest doctor they had assigned me to. The receptionist called my name as I shot past her, sunglasses already on, hand up, and directed at her like Norma Desmond in Sunset Boulevard. I am big, I wanted to tell the entire office, patients included. I cannot believe you would send me to someone that is so incompetent. I never in my wildest dreams would suspect that I would be treated in such a manner as this medical professional has. He completely disregarded everything that I said and then handed me a prescription for gas. I feel I need to see an attorney at this point. No one is taking me seriously. Everyone nearby cowered away from me as I stomped throughout the reception area without checking out, and then on to the waiting room, bellowing my threat throughout. This was my life, sadly, this overwhelming feeling of being mightier than thou. I felt entitled to only the best. I was always right. No one was smarter than I. My 20 best friends and I loved each other and did so much together. Yet, when they were out of sight, I badmouthed them and told their secrets to anyone who would listen. I was notorious for letting men think that they had a shot with me, going to their place and sleeping with them. Then I would sneak out before they woke up. My reputation made me powerful. I was both feared and loved at the same time. I was at the top. But the problem with being at the top meant that the fall was going to be pretty massive. And yes, I did fall. Massively. I grew up normal enough in a rural Midwestern town, middle of nowhere. I realized at a young age that I was something special, a force to be reckoned with. I thought that meant that I had to be the best. I wanted nothing more than to get out of that disgusting gray town. So that meant I had to excel at all costs. My brother Sean and I butted heads from the beginning. My mother always felt let down by life. The final straw was Sean and I not getting along. After I left, she actually did not speak to me for a few years. I did not mind. I had my life to live. I was valedictorian of my high school, graduated Latin honors in college, and landed a sweet copy editing job in New York City all within 4 years. I worked hard and ferociously to get to the top. I won. I won at life. And now it was my time to let everyone know that. A couple of years after moving to New York, my mother tracked me down to reconcile with me. She had become enlightened, I think she called it, which I always assumed that she meant she had found Jesus or something of the sort, which my thought was always, why would anyone need Jesus when they had someone like me in their life? She began calling regularly, and I got to know my mother all over again, which was nice because all of my friends were always talking about how close they were to their mothers. It was inspirational for me to share my reconnection with my mother's story. Family closeness was in. This year was a first for me. I was going to North Carolina to have Christmas with my family. My mother was hosting a dinner at her new house with her new husband, whom I had yet to meet. Sean would be there. I did not particularly want to go, but I thought and planned out all of the pictures that I would take and plaster all over Facebook to display how amazing I was. Over 100 likes per picture made Christmas at home all worth it. I had finally worked enough to earn a decent vacation, so I was taking 2 whole weeks off. Seniority and a certain discreet encounter in the executive washroom resulted in the only 2-week vacation spanning Christmas and New Year's in the office. I would probably ditch the family to come back early, veg out, and partake in a decent NYC New Year's. All in all, so much win in this situation. I was leaving in 2 days, and it looked like I was not going to get the miracle cure I was after before Christmas as I ended my call to the insurance representative. She promised to search harder for a decent doctor for me, but now it seemed we were looking at next year. Well, might as well live it up until that point. My cell shrilled out with an incoming call as I looked down at it and noticed my assistant was phoning. He spoke quieter than normal and asked me when a particular project was supposed to be dealt with. This set my blood boiling. First off, he had never dared address me in such a way. It was usually a submissive rambling of appointments scheduled and new deadlines, messages from calls missed, never demanding tones about things I dealt with. After the doctor's office health insurance fiasco, I stood in the lobby of this enormous medical building, losing the last bit of well-preserved patience I had. "Excuse me? With whom do you think you are addressing? I decide when things are dealt with. You never assume to ask me questions such as these. The project of Landon's will be dealt with when the incompetent staff he so daftly hired hands me the rewrites which I asked for 2 weeks ago. The writing is so horrid, I guess they have hurdles to jump through to stroke the dreadful writer's ego and make him believe he wrote a best-selling piece of pure inspirational goodness for all of Oprah's followers to enjoy, when in the end, he wrote 332 pages of trivial, meaningless, trite, and contemptuous filth that I would not even recommend to my loathsome brother. Get the gist here, Martin?" I hit end and continued my walk to work. My lunch break had been extended due to my doctor's appointment, and after all the stress of the day, I decided to extend it even further with the Chinese buffet. My favorite expensive Chinese place was on the way. I entered the tiny hole-in-the-wall structure and plopped down at my favorite table without waiting to be seated. They knew me here, and I tipped well, so they never said anything to me about just walking in. It made me look and feel important, so I continued to display my entitlement for all to see. I ordered from the sushi bar and had them bring me a bottle of red wine. 2 o'clock in the afternoon is never too early for red. That was always my mantra. I ate in my usual silence, occupied by my phone and food. I never just ate without being engulfed by technology in some form or another. It eased the reality of eating alone. Lunches were normally alone, as no one at the office ever wanted to eat with me. I usually ordered takeout to be delivered to the office. Martin would bring it in, promptly leave, and I would work through my lunch. You just get more done that way. By the time I paid my tab, I was feeling slightly tipsy. I hated being so tipsy in high heels. It made the art of walking in them even more challenging than it already was. I'm a rather short girl that had always hid behind long, dark, wavy locks and found comfort in the height high heels gave me. It made me feel more powerful, towering even, although with the heels, I was still nowhere near towering. Being slightly more higher from the ground did wonders for my head. Ah, the lovely ego. Can't go anywhere without it. I visited the restroom and reapplied some lipstick. I generously slapped on some matte powder all over my face. The thought of being anything but flawless was the most unbearable thought in the world. If I left the house without a full face of makeup, no one would recognize me. No one would take notice. I'm quite plain, and the effects of my lifestyle, as the doctor so delicately put it, were starting to show. I definitely saw plastic surgery in my future. Staying young, desirable, and powerful were the most important goals of any girl's life these days. I was not about to get pushed back or trampled over by a 20-something head case with that hungry look in her eyes, willing to do whatever it took to scramble to the top, even if that meant trampling on an experienced woman such as I. Nope, sorry. I was that person at 20-something, but I refused to be the 40-something, demure, haggard woman who lost her job so that I could take over. Karma only works against those who do horrendous acts such as rape and murder. I'm doing what is expected of me to get by in this existence of godlike people. I am the norm, not the outcast. My glory is only achieved in my lifetime. I'm not going to wait around to see if the keys of paradise will actually be handed to me when I die. I'm going to create my own paradise, one golden brick at a time, to ensure my survival and comfort in this harsh, cruel world. Yes, I am one of the masses. I gracefully held it together while walking. I wish my mother would have put me in ballet as a child. At least I would have been even more graceful, beautiful, and thin. This walk would have never been such an exhausting task of pivotal precision. It would have been likened to a beautiful dance, a Swan Lake-worthy walk, not this slightly buzzed girl that is going to attempt to walk 4 blocks in high heels without stumbling once and failing miserably. I have several memories in college where I actually attempted ballet stances while drunk, but I am certain it lacked the grace and poise I was aiming for. Why, Mother, why could I not have been a ballerina? I walked in the main lobby of the skyscraper that housed my publishing company. I smiled a little too sweetly at the security officer as I handed him my purse and walked through the metal detector. Usually I'm growling at him as to why I have to hand him the cell phone that I am trying to use. He handed me my purse upon full inspection, and I went on my way. I was starting to get a little silly. I have an unusually low tolerance to alcohol. I guess the entire bottle was a bad idea at lunch. I toppled to the elevator. The attendant knew me and knew exactly which floor I was going to. "How was your lunch today, Ms. Wilde?" He was usually polite, even when it obviously pained him to talk to me. "It was marvelous. I rather enjoyed myself. I met friends at our favorite little eatery on 4th, and I am late due to meeting the most charming man." Lies. At this point, dear reader, you should surmise that I am a compulsive liar, a trait that has also aided me in getting to the top. Life is so much more interesting when you make it up as you go along. Sounds very enjoyable. I could tell he knew I made it all up. He was perceptive for a lowly elevator attendant. He most likely had a fat wife and 10 screaming brats at home that he was supporting. I always pitied him. The elevator doors opened to my floor. I stumbled out without saying another word to him and carried on down the long hall to my office. I wobbled past the receptionist, who looked at me with her mouth hanging open as if in amazement. Assuming she could tell I was drunk, I sneered at her. "Stop gawking. A grown woman can have a drink at her lunch break, especially after hearing heartbreaking news about her health from her doctor." Oh yes, I could work with this one. She immediately put her head down in focus of the stack of papers on her desk, and her salvation was the phone ringing. That distracted her further. I then found myself in the midst of the crowded editing floor. Interns were on the phone, some were running back and forth, copywriters were busy with their heads downward over their computers in hunch-like fashion that could ever so often be seen from their compact cubicles when their heads would pop up briefly. I approached my office door as the frantic Martin came in white as a ghost. The poor administrative assistant must have still been reeling from our most unpleasant phone conversation. I took pity and tried a gentle approach to ease his distress. "Martin, are we clear now? I don't want you to address me with such informal, commanding tones anymore," I said in a soothing voice, or the best soothing voice I could muster. "Miss Wilde, it wasn't," he stammered, and I could see a trickle of sweat escaping his temple as he pushed his glasses up the bridge of his nose with one shaking finger. "Stop shaking like a pathetic little girl." I was losing patience once again. He stopped shaking suddenly, took a deep breath, as if to compose himself, and straightened up. "Mr. Michaels wishes to see you in his office, Miss Wilde." He stood there before me, looking surprisingly brave. "Tell him I will be along shortly." I took my jacket off and hung it up on the coat rack adjacent to my desk. I sat down in my office chair and breathed out a sigh. Now was not a good time to attend to Mr. Michaels. He should give me a little more notice. "Now, Miss Wilde, he needs to see you now." Martin spoke with a similar authority as he had before. This was the final straw. "How dare you command me? I am your boss. I command you. I need my coffee now. Tell Mr. Michaels I will see him later." This day kept getting weirder and weirder. I was just beginning to notice it. People were going crazy. Was it a full moon? "No, I will not get your coffee." He stormed out of the office and slammed the door behind him. I waited for a moment to react. If he did not leave on his own accord within the hour, I would march out there and publicly humiliate him, firing him on the spot in front of everyone. Thankfully, I was rather tipsy, so sitting at my desk was the most logical recourse at the moment. I so dreaded the hiring of a new assistant. Martin was so good, and he was nice to look at. Hopefully, I could coast through on my own until after vacation. It was pointless to look for someone new right now. I printed out my agenda for the next few days to give to Nick when I decided to get up and go see him. Of course, I was to address him as Mr. Michaels like the rest of the staff, but once you sleep with a person, it automatically bumps you to a first-name basis. Well, that is, if you see them after the initial encounter. I swiveled in my chair around to retrieve the papers from my printer that was behind my desk. With my back to the door, I heard it fling open. I assumed it was Martin with my coffee, scared like a little lamb. "You better have brought coffee and a formal apology or your ass is out of a job," I said, swinging around to come face to face with Nick. "No coffee? No formal apology? I owe you neither. You owe a lot for your behavior." I wasn't even fazed by his sudden appearance. I leaned back in my chair and sighed as if I was bored. "I don't owe anyone anything. I better start receiving some more respect around here or I'll," he quickly cut me off. "Or you'll what? I gave you way too much power, or just let you take it. It's like the devil wears Prada in this place. The dynamic is so much more relaxed when you take extended lunch breaks like you did today." "Oh, come on. You yourself feel like people should know their place," I fired back. "Yes, I do believe that, and you yourself should know your place as well." He towered over my desk, hoping to intimidate me. He failed to realize that after I see men naked and sexually, they will never intimidate me, ever. "I do know my place," I smiled smugly. "Oh, cut the bullshit. You act like you are the boss here. You are one of many editors here." He placed his hands on my desk. His palms dug in as he invaded my space. "I work harder and more efficiently than anyone else in this office. I should be helping you run this place. In fact, I do." I rested my hands in my lap and clasped them together. What he did not see was that this was not a relaxed and nonchalant position for me. I was clenching my hands together in agitation. "No, you only appear that way. You order people around. You yell at people. Rarely do you take your own initiative. You have everyone else do it for you. You are the queen of delegation." He mockingly raised his hands and made a bowing gesture. "I did not realize I was due for a performance review. At my last review, you had nothing but positive feedback for my specific skill set." I gave him a piercing glare as he knew what I was speaking of. "Those days are over. Your career here is over." He turned on his heel and started to the door. "You're firing me? On what grounds? I can file a sexual harassment suit and take this company out from under you." I shot up from my seat like a swift bullet. I was not backing down. He paused at my door and relaxed his stance before turning around to face me. "On the grounds that your days of bullying everyone in the office, including me, are over. My attorney informed me that I would get out of any retaliation that you could throw at me because of your notorious reputation. All the staff here are ready to come to my defense and speak out against you if needed. You seduced and bewitched me. I succumbed to your charms as I am but a lonely bachelor in New York City. You used sex to get what you wanted. For example, you are the only one in the office with a 2-week holiday vacation. How is that fair to the already resentful staffers? They fear you. They cannot handle your demeanor. You are extremely difficult to work with. Oh, and today, you chewed out and insulted one of our better clients, Landon Fellows, after Martin was instructed by me to forward a call from him to you. It will be a miracle if I can get him back in our good graces after what you said to him today. I have reached an end with you. You and your attitude are no longer needed here. You are dismissed immediately. Your last pay will cover you through your vacation, but after that, you receive no severance. I'm sorry, Catherine, but we are finished." I watched him leave without uttering a word. Never before had I been given such a blow in all my life. What now?